How much can one make in a year from boating like this?
I think. So I've got 5 boats now.
Oh,
So
five
I
boats.
started with,
Oh, that's a good 5 boats.
yeah, I didn't want to mess about. I wanted to.
You went all in.
I went all in.
That's the spirit I love, you know.
I would. Obviously, I borrowed some money,
Okay.
and I used it to buy boats. And so now,
One making a year from boating like this.
I think. So I've got 5 boats now.
Oh,
So
five
I
boats.
started with,
Oh, that's a good 5 boats.
yeah, I didn't want to mess about. I wanted to.
You went all in.
I went all in.
That's the spirit I love, you know.
I would. Obviously, I borrowed some money,
Okay.
and I used it to buy boats. And so now this is my 5th year, and I think I'm making about, there's a lot of.
For giving me the time and
pleasure.
speaking to me about business and the boat that you have. Okay. Again, my name is Marlon McLeod. I'm a YouTuber. I go around, introduce myself to people, pick their brains for ideas for helping the younger generation. So, what do you do other than this boat, please?
At the moment, this boat is my entire business.
Oh, really? Okay. When did you start boating? If I could
So
say
I started this business about 5 years ago during COVID, and I was in the film industry before that. I was in the film industry for 15 years, and out of boredom and lack of money, because all of my film jobs went away because of COVID, I started the boat business. So I started with one boat, not this one in the background, but I started with another boat. And I really enjoyed boating, and it was my hobby. So I thought, I'm bored, I've got nothing to do. They're starting to ease lockdown. People could go out again. They weren't flying abroad. They were going out and enjoying the staycation in the UK. So I bought one boat, and they were easing the lockdown. People could go outside again, and I had a fantastic first year. And I thought, okay, maybe this isn't just a stopgap. And okay, I'll do another year, because the film industry was still a bit up and down. Lots of my friends were still out of work. And I'd stumbled across a business I'd never thought about before. And
which is boating. What?
It's boating, yeah.
What do you exactly do, sir?
So it's private charter. So you can come with friends, up to 12 people, and I will take you out from an hour
What's the
to a
location?
whole day. So we're in Henley-on-Thames now. And we also...
Where can I find you?
I'm by Henley Bridge. You can't miss me. If you can find Henley Bridge, you can find me.
Okay.
And so here I've got 2 classic boats. One's not here at the moment. This one's a 1938 boat. And usually behind it is a Venetian water taxi. The Venetian water taxi's gone off for the day.
Sometimes in business you have regrets.
Yeah.
Any regrets you have so far in terms of progress in this business?
My only regret is I think for too long.
Which was
It was
acting,
it
right?
was film and TV. I was a cameraman.
Oh, you're a cameraman.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a cameraman. I used to travel the world. It was a totally different lifestyle. But I'd become a bit, I don't know, I wasn't enjoying it. But because it's all I'd done before, I stayed doing it. I carried on for maybe more years than I should have. Because this is all I'd ever done. I went straight from school into film. I hadn't trained in anything else. It's not particularly transferable. It's not like I can go into an office and say, hey, I can hold a camera, give me a job. So I'd sort of stayed on a bit longer than I planned to.
How many years? 10 years you mentioned?
15. Yeah. So
That's a long time.
I was enjoying it, but I'd lost the passion for it.
After a time.
So the COVID came along, and it forced my hand. There was nothing I could do. I was sat at home doing nothing for the first time in 15 years. So it made me think of, what else can I do? What else do I enjoy? I took a hobby and I turned it into a business, and now I make more money from the boats than I ever did from film and TV. And I get to spend my life on the river, talking to nice people. It's much less stress.
How much can one make in a year from boating like this?
I think. So I've got 5 boats now.
Oh,
So
five
I
boats.
started with,
Oh, that's a good 5 boats.
yeah, I didn't want to mess about. I wanted to.
You went all in.
I went all in.
That's the spirit I love, you know.
I would. Obviously, I borrowed some money,
Okay.
and I used it to buy boats. And so now this is my 5th year, And I think I'm making about, there's a lot of expenses with a classic boat. I didn't realize that at the beginning. I looked around at other boating companies and they're all modern. You can see them in the background. They're modern boats. They're easy, wipe clean, low maintenance. Those are charter boats.
Well, what's special about your boat?
This has provenance. This has history. This is 1938. This is
1930. That's way before my birthday.
Me too. Yeah. So this has got soul. These boats have got soul. So they're all classic. They're all different. They've all got history. They've all been restored and kept going. And as a customer, you're helping to keep this piece of history going. I'm slightly more expensive than the plastic boats, but you're helping to maintain this boat, keep it going, and that's part of the business model, really.
How do you retain a customer?
So I started off hoping that I would sit by the boat and people would come down to me and say, I want to take a boat out. And that doesn't really work. So the day trippers, as I call them, it's sporadic. You don't know. It all depends on the weather. If it's raining, which it does a lot here, I could be weeks without a job. So what I thought is, okay, I'll take the boat and I'll go to any hotel, restaurant on the river, and I'll say, hey, why doesn't my boat become part of your venue? And you can charge your guests. I'll charge you this amount. You can charge your guests whatever you want, and I'll be here with the boat. We'll take it out. It becomes part of your guest experience. So that's where I moved. It took me a couple of years to figure that out, and so that now becomes a consistent monthly income rather than sporadic money. It depends on the weather and depends on the time of year. And so the hotel, it's every month this amount. I get the same amount of money, and I can sleep better at night knowing I can pay my bills.
Less worries, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So what? You're doing like 6 figures a year?
Not yet. I mean, we're doing yes, but a lot of it goes back into the boats at the moment. So to start the business, I had to buy all the boats. They all needed work. I couldn't afford top 100% level boats, so I got them at good prices. And as I'm making money from them, I'm putting them back into the boats to the point where, yes, eventually there'll be less maintenance, there'll be less outgoings, and I'll be seeing some more of that profit. At the moment, yes, I'm making about $250-300 a year. A hell of a lot is going into the boats, and the maintenance and I want them to be very top level luxury. So every penny I'm getting, I'm putting back into the business.
Do you hope to diversify in other boating industry, or you want to just stick to this niche of just taking people with the hotels? What's your plan for the upcoming 5 to 10 years in boating?
Well, it's organic. I'm seeing, the boats open lots of doors to new people. It's a lot of networking happens. It starts a conversation with people I'd never thought I'd speak to before. People, high net wealth people, suddenly give me an idea. Well, have you thought about taking this boat? Let's take a boat to Dubai. I never thought about that. Okay, let's have a conversation about it. I'm organic at the moment. I'm just trying to find more contracts with hotels and restaurants. So I've got 4 contracts now.
That's good.
Which is good. I'm holding on to contracts from last year, and they're rolling over year after year, which is good. So I'm on the Thames. So there's only so many hotels and restaurants I can work with, and there are obviously competitors at other hotels and things. So there is scope to diversify. I've got one boat that I bought that was in a James Bond film, for instance. Okay. It was 1972. It was in The Spy Who Loved Me. Beautiful big power boat. 600 horsepower.
Really?
No good for
How many horsepower is this?
This one's electric, so this is a very slow, slow and relaxing and quiet experience. The James Bond boat is a different experience, but it's better suited to abroad maybe. So that's not something I've done before, but I'm starting to think about how do I get this boat to a hotel in Italy or in France. That's the plan. And then I've got to think about, okay, so I send a boat to Italy and France. Who's going to run it for me? I can't do it because I'm here doing this. Who do I trust? It's hard. I don't know those markets, so it's lots to think about. It's It's every day I'm learning as I'm going. This is a new business. I've never run a business before, and before this I was quite new to boating as well. So it's two things I've combined, and it's been a lot of trial and error, mostly error. But there's been some, it's going well. I tried a lot of things at the beginning. Some of it didn't work. The key is not to get downhearted and just focus on what is working, and have a clear idea of where you want to be in 5-10 years. That's the key thing. Work backwards from that, because I think when I started, I was just throwing the net out everywhere. I didn't know what market to get into. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had a boat. I didn't know where to position it. I didn't know how to get customers. I didn't know anything about marketing. And so, now I've got a clear vision of, the hotel contracts works. Let's work back from there. Where do I want to be in 10 years' time, and how do I get there? And that's the only advice I can give that I've learned in the last 5 years from running this business.
Do you believe in social media promotion?
I've tried, and we've had influencers on the boat, and I'm not a social media expert. I've tried, but I found for my business specifically, just taking the boats and showing them to people, that's my best marketing tool. The boats themselves, because even a photo doesn't do it justice. Walking into a hotel and saying, hey, I've got this nice boat. If you can get the boat to the hotel and go, look how nice that looks in front of your hotel, they go, okay, I can see the vision. That's how I won the first big contract I had. Okay. I took all of my boats to this hotel. I like
really?
Okay. I put them out the front and I said, hey, come and have a look how nice this looks. And the owner of the hotel went, what do I need? Where do I sign?
Okay,
what do I do?
Good. That's good.
It's the biggest selling point. I can talk about them all day, but until you actually show people, you take them out on the boat, that's.
How do you deal with competitors in the market?
For me, I've just tried to be different. I haven't tried to copy other people, and I haven't taken the easy route, because the easy route for me, all my competitors have modern boats. There's a handful of people that have classic boats, but generally it's modern, easy, low maintenance. That's where you get your biggest margin, because you're not putting all the money straight back into the boat. So, but I've stuck with the classic boats because I think, for me, I get passionate about these boats. I don't think I could get passionate about a boat I'm not excited by.
Like the electronic boats, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a different market, and I've tried. You've got to look at your competitors, and you've got to think these are more established people than me. So I'm new to this. I can't just come in and expect to be competing with people that have been doing this for 50 years. There's a lot of family inherited businesses around me that have been going for 100 years. So I can't come in 5 years in and go, well, I'm going to compete with you. I don't have the money to buy 40 boats either. So my very small fleet has to be special. It has to be different. It has to. That's all I can do to compete really at the moment. And I have to be personable, and I have to knock on doors, and I have to be passionate about my business, and and I think people can respond to that. If you go in and you're not passionate about your business, I think people can see that straight away. I mean, I love these boats, and I think it sells itself. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. It's a sculpture. It's not just just a plastic boat to go out for the day. This is an experience that you're receiving.
Can you give me a scenario where you had a difficult time with a customer, or and he did something really idiotic, and you settled the matter right on point? And how did you go about settling that issue?
I think,
and making him satisfied?
Yeah, the key thing is to set out your boundaries at the beginning, so that you have something to refer back to if someone breaks that boundary.
Okay.
So with the boats, I've got a website. There's terms and conditions. Okay. This is acceptable. This isn't acceptable. I want you to have a nice time, but I want you to be safe. And I don't want to be, a downer on people having a nice time. But with a boat, people can get hurt. People can fall in. There's lots that can go wrong. Accidents can happen. And I think if you're very clear and firm at the beginning, this is what's acceptable. I always give a safety brief before you get on the boat. this is fine, this is not fine, please do this, please don't do this. And then when someone breaks those rules, you can say, hey, look, I said...
Has anyone ever broken these rules? Give me one scenario, please. Give me one, please. I'd love to know.
Boating, people like to drink. So, people start off very nice and amenable at the beginning, and especially if you're out for a few hours or a whole day, they bring a lot of alcohol, they drink a lot, and they start to push the boundaries of...
So they jump off the boat?
I've had people jump off the boat.
And you had to go and get them? You had to go and swim?
You have to double back and say, hey, get back on the boat. And for me, I don't want to ruin, they're having a nice time.
Yes.
As long as they're not endangering themselves or damaging the boat, there's a bit of wiggle room, but as soon as they cross that boundary, as soon as they put the boat, me, or themselves in danger, you've got to be firm, and they respect, they will understand. You can't just, whatever you want to do, it's fine. I'm too, I don't want to upset the customer. Do what you want, because that'll bite you later if they hurt themselves, or you
complain on you.
You were
on your boat.
You never said you couldn't do that. No, I did say that. It's on the website. It's very clear. You broke the rules. You hurt yourself. We're all so I have. Occasionally, I've said to people, okay, we've had a nice time. I think that's probably enough for today. Let's go back in. Cut it short. Half an hour early, an hour early. They respect it if you say, look, this is why. You've got to be clear, and you can't let customers walk over you. Because there's a temptation, especially with a small business, when it's just you. You take a lot from customers, and you don't want to upset them.
You're right. I agree with that.
But sometimes to protect yourself, you've got to be firm, and you've got to say, look, this is my business, this is my livelihood. You can't. I don't want you to jeopardize that by doing this or the other. So you have to be firm, and don't be ashamed, because you're in the right. It's your business. You have the right to say no. You can say no. It's perfectly acceptable.
They often say, never mix business with pleasure.
Yep.
Do you believe in that?
Yeah, sadly, I've taken my one hobby, and I've turned it into a business. So it's hard to. So, for instance, I never take the boats out for fun. It's hard to separate, fun and the business. I see they're a business asset. After they finish work, they get cleaned up, they get put away, and they're left alone. And I'm trying not to resent my one hobby. And it's hard running a business, and there's lots of ups and downs, and it's important to enjoy it, what you're doing, isn't it? It's I still love boating, but sometimes I just don't want to look at a boat. I've had a long day. I don't want to ruin my one hobby, basically. So
Are you a one-man entrepreneur, or are there employees under you?
So at the moment, it was just me to start off with, year one. Then my partner is a teacher. And I was struggling to keep up with the emails and the phone calls and the logistics side. So she helps with taking the phone calls and the emails and the logistics, and she's very organised. And I do most of the skippering and physically working with the boats and the maintenance and bits like that. So at the moment, there's just the two of us. And then we hire freelance skippers to come in and skipper the boats. Now that we've got contracts in different locations, we have to have regular freelancers to sort of manage each individual boat, and to make a log of any issues with it, and to sort of take that boat as their own, and manage it so that almost like a franchise. So I'm not having to go boat to boat every day and check. This one needs this one's broken. So they're managing them individually and managing the customers as well. So we take the bookings, or the hotel takes the bookings. They're there. As soon as the customer gets there, they take over and they do the charter.
What advice would you give someone who is new in the market, just coming
to boating? Don't underestimate how hard work it's going to be, even though it seems from a customer's perspective, it's a fun, frivolous thing. From I'm working 7 days a week to make sure these boats are working, especially the classic boats. They are They're high maintenance. They're like, think of classic cars. They go wrong in ways you wouldn't imagine, and to keep them running, there's very specialist people you have to use. It's not like a normal boat. You have to have, for the woodwork, it's a dying art. People that will work.
What's the price for a boat like this?
Casino Royale is valued about £120,000.
Okay.
So, and she's completely unique. It's. And you have to find people that were willing to work on a boat they've never seen before. It's not like, this boat here. There's thousands of those, and the engines are all the same, and the way they're built is the same. And you can say, I need this boat fixed, and an engineer will come and he'll know exactly how to work on it. When I need something on this boat, it's a completely bespoke. The electric installation is bespoke. The way it was built is bespoke. There is not another one of those like that anywhere in the world. So it's a tricky, it's things I didn't think about. I just thought that's a beautiful boat.
Any regrets you have in your business?
I wish I'd sat down in the beginning and really thought about what I wanted from the business. I think I was just going with the flow, and I wasted a lot of time figuring it out on the fly. I wish I'd really sat down in the first year and thought, taking it really seriously, what do I want this business to look like, and how do I get there? Because I bought the boat and I just started, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to run a business, the finance side, the accounting, no idea. I'd come from a completely different industry. So,
are you coming from wealth? Is your family wealthy?
No, not at all. No. I borrowed some money from a friend to start the business. Okay. Under the understanding I'll pay him back at some point, which I will one day.
Okay.
But
if you were to go back again, would you have continued doing boating, or would you have just stayed as an employee going back?
I don't think. No, I think I was already checked out of what I was doing. I think this gave me the push. COVID was obviously awful, but actually, I had no option to stop working. I wouldn't have stopped what I was doing if it wasn't for COVID. I would have carried on, not really enjoying it, but thinking, what else can I do? This is what I've always done. So, I'm thankful in a way that it just said, nope, stop, you can't do it. Think of something else. Yeah. So then I was like, oh, okay. What do I enjoy doing, and boating, was my hobby. I don't really play sports or anything, it's...
That takes me to my next question. Do you go to the gym on a daily basis?
No, I'm just on my feet. Oh, thank you very much.
I'm looking in the mirror and I'm saying, damn, my stomach is it's getting bigger. Anyway, but you look good. You're better than...
It's mostly stress. Stress is great for losing weight. It's great.
Okay. So I need to be stressed more, huh?
You are not stressed enough. You look too relaxed.
Really?
No, it's running your own business. You are every part of the business. You are on your feet from 6 a.m. till midnight sometimes, because no one else is there to do it. You've got to do it. No, even today I've been running all over. It's like spinning plates. You got one going. And you got that one going, and then suddenly, that one. Oh no, I've got to run over there. And you think you think you've got everything going. It's juggling all the time. And but I think the rewards are you're not working 9 to 5. You can carve how the life you want. You can steer it the way you want. I'm hoping there will be some time off at some point in the future. One is, I'm hoping the business becomes a bit more autonomous as time goes on, and I can take a step back and I can start having employees, because, at the moment, all of my staff is casual. I have no full-time employees. So it would be nice that, if I could replicate myself to do some of the stuff, that would be nice. Everything's up here. I know every part of the business from top to bottom, and it's hard to trust other people to do that, to know how to problem solve on the fly, So, but I'd like to get to that point. I'd like to be able to stop thinking about it, because you don't ever switch off when you're running your own business. It is 24/7. You're thinking about it from the moment you wake up, and you're lying in bed thinking about it at night, and you're having dreams about it, and then you wake up, and you're having dreams about boat sinking, or it's all consuming, but there are rewards to it. And,
The cash is unlimited.
yeah, your only limitation is yourself. You can push yourself as far as you want, without burning yourself out. But if you want to really be, if you're really passionate about it, then the sky's the limit. And you can, being your own boss has its own perks, definitely.
When you retire in a few years,
Yeah.
what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about you?
I just want to be proud of, I'm already proud of. I've created something from absolutely nothing, from the ground up. I didn't have any of my own money. I've gone in with an idea. I've pitched it to someone. They had the belief in me that this is a good idea. I went into the conversation saying, "Do you think this is a good idea?" And they said, "Yeah." And and they wanted to help. They had that belief. I've worked really hard. It's exhausting. And it'd be nice to look back in the past and say it was all in the future, and say, it was worth it. I'm really proud of this thing that I've made, and people enjoy it, and people respect it, and and that's what you can hope for, really. And some money would be nice.
Do you believe in taking loans to start a business, or you should work until you get to that level, then invest that cash that you've worked for?
I think you need to be sure about what you're doing before you take money. You need to be very clear. And a clear, what I didn't have was a clear idea about how I was going to spend the money once I had it. And I got this money, and what I did was probably the wrong thing. I bought a load of boats that needed work. I spent all of the money on the boats. I didn't save any of it. So then I had a fleet of boats that needed work, boats that, had been, needed restoration, needed engine work, needed varnish work. None of them were, great charter boats. In hindsight, maybe I should have bought one and made it the perfect boat. With the money I had, made one fantastic boat, and then thought, okay, this works. Let's replicate this with another one. So what I did is I started with 5, project boats, and I've worked them. And as they've worked, I've raised them all a little bit of money on this one, a little bit of money on this one, and it's a juggling act. And that's just my regret is I went too big. I looked at other companies and thought, these other companies have got 20, 30, 40 boats, and I've got one. How can I compete? I need a load of boats, And that was my mistake, and I bought a load that I'm not even using yet because I can't, because they need so much work. They're sat in a shed at a farm, depreciating because I bought them.
Can't you sell them now?
It's not a great market for boats, and it's also not a great market for wooden boats. It's quite a niche thing, and I'll probably end up losing money if I sell them as they are.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I won't get my money back,
Oh.
so I will lose money. But boats like this one, I've increased the value of this one, so it's worth. I will get round to restoring them, and it will happen as I start generating more money from the business. And I've got them there. They're not going anywhere. I'm not paying for them to be where they are, so they're just sat there. When I've got some money, I can invest, and then bang, I've got another charter boat if I need it, or I come across a new hotel. Oh, we need a boat. Here's a bit of working capital. Okay, I'll put it into this boat that I've got ready. I'm not taking a boat from another contract. I'm not out suddenly looking for a boat on the market. I've got them here ready. I can put a bit of money, get it working, and away I go.
Any final thoughts for young entrepreneurs coming into the market?
Maybe not boats. Pick something you're passionate about, because you are going to it will consume you, and you have to. If you're not passionate about it, you're going to lose interest in it. You have to really enjoy it, because the rewards aren't there to begin with. So you have to be getting something back from it. You have to be getting some gratification for what you do, because you won't get money to begin with. So yeah, do something you enjoy, take a hobby, find the niche, look at your competitors, do something slightly different. You know, don't try and compete with established companies to start off with. That's all I can say, really.
Okay, thank you for your time and
pleasure.
all the best
Thank
in
you
your
very much.
business.
Thank you.
And please, what's the location again?
We're in Henley-on-Thames by the bridge.
Yes.
You can't miss me.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, bye bye.